Welcome to 2Cents FC. I'm your host, Amobi Okugo, back again with my guy, L. Each week, we'll be talking with individuals from around the soccer world, learning about their stories and getting their unfiltered thoughts and opinions. This week, we'll be talking with a very special guest, founder and creative director of Hyphenate Creative Co, Raheem Taylor-Parkes. We're going to be getting to know all about Raheem, talking about his career and learning about his entrepreneurial endeavors. Raheem's someone that I've had the fortune and pleasure of meeting when he was just a young pup. Now he's a big dog in the game. Raheem, how you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man. It's a pleasure to be here, just reminiscing about our old days. You know, when I was in the academy, you're on the first team, just looking up to you, man. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Man, life really comes full circle because I started seeing you again. I was like, yo, I know this cat. And then, so I'm excited to get into your story. But, L, let's hit it off how we always do.
For sure. So, Two Truths in a Cap. If you're not familiar with the show, this is the icebreaker game that we like to play where our guest Raheem tells us 3 facts about himself. 2 will be true, 1 will be a lie, and Amobi and I have to guess what the lie is. So I think it's still 4-1, Amobi.
Yeah, it's 4-1.
Still up? All right,
Yeah.
so I got some catching up to do. So Raheem, whenever you're ready, bro.
All right, these are my 3, okay? I was on trial with Arsenal as a youngster. My name comes from a movie, and I played for the Jamaican national team.
Ooh, he came prepared. See how quickly he came out with this?
I'm trying to trick y'all a little bit.
Yeah. The name comes from a movie. Raheem. What movies came out around that time? You're like in 96?
98.
Oh my goodness. Y'all are so young.
98, what's that, like Inkwell or something like that? One of them movies.
Raheem, it's like...
I'm going to say on trial at Arsenal is the cap. I think you're an Arsenal fan, which would be great. But I think that's the cap, though.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I think that's the cat. Well, he is Jamaican, so he could go to England at a younger age. But I think it was like somewhere in Germany or somewhere where he went to trial. So, yeah, I'm agreeing with that.
All right, so you guys want the answer?
Yeah.
Damn, clearly we got it wrong,
okay.
I think.
yeah, that was true. I did go on trial at Arsenal, so you guys missed that one.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you guys missed that one. And then my name does come from a movie, actually. So the movie Juice.
That's what oh my goodness, I was going to say that.
There's a character, Raheem.
Yep.
Like, who shot Raheem?
Yeah.
Okay, so like that's where my name comes from. So
okay.
Also, my aunt used to call me like Radio Raheem from Do the Right Thing with the Spike Lee movie.
Yeah.
And then the lie actually is that I did not play on the Jamaican national team at all. I only played for Canada and the US youth national teams. I didn't play for Canada. I didn't play for Jamaica.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. That's good. We both
that was a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gave us a little history lesson. You know, you could have played for Jamaica, but you played for Canada and US. But when did you fall in love with soccer?
The way I fell in love with soccer was kind of crazy. So when I was 8 years old, I was still living in Canada at the time. And my mom and dad, they actually did track and field. So I always had like natural athletic abilities. I always realized that like I was kind of faster. You know, you race kids in your grade and stuff. And you're like, you know, like whoever the fastest kid is will be like one of the most popular and stuff. But I was always just like kind of like a really athletic guy. And like a couple of my friends were playing soccer outside in Canada. And like I just really loved the sport. Like I don't know where it came from at all. Like we were just playing on the street. And I remember like going into the kitchen when we were living in Mississauga at the time, and I like grabbed my mom's dress and I'm like, "Yo, mom, like I really want you to like sign me up for soccer. Like I feel like I'm naturally good at the sport."
Mm-hmm.
And like my mom's like a Caribbean mother. She's like, "You don't even know what you're talking about. Like, get away from me. Like, you know, she's not trying to listen to it." But then she actually did tell my dad, so they actually signed me up for like my first like rec league like soccer team in Toronto. So that's when I first started playing like at age 8. And, like, I kind of was just really good at it from the beginning. Like, you know, I was just really pacey, could just get in behind. And just, like, when you're that age, like, no one's going to be that fast. So you just score a lot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, like, my beginning into the sport and just falling in love with the game, really.
Okay. So you're boys with a lot of guys on the U.S. men's national team. You're boys with a lot of guys on the Canadian men's national team. They play each other. Who are you going for?
Honestly, I just enjoy the game. Like, I honestly, like, I try to shout out both of them as much as possible. Like, because I have so many close friends on both sides. Obviously, I was able to play on the U.S. national team with guys for longer, so like we have kind of like more of like a deeper connection. But still, to the Canadian guys, like they're still my boys. So it's really hard when they play against each other. So like I just kind of just try to enjoy the game, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy the football. I'm not gonna go for anything. Whatever happens, happens. Let them square it out.
Okay, respect. And then when it comes to your story, you have a unique story. You started, I don't want to say a little bit later, but it took some convincing of your parents to let you play. And then immediately from there, you just blossomed. So talk about your journey to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so after we lived in Canada, we moved to Florida in 2008. So we first moved to Florida, Wesley Chapel. It's a small town in Tampa. So I started playing like competitive soccer for like a local team here called like Spirit, and like that's when I really started to make a name for myself like around like the Florida area. But then I moved to a team called Brandon to like just get more exposure, and that's how I got kind of on the national team, going through the ODP system, which doesn't like really exist anymore. But at that time, making the ODP team, so I went to like the state tryouts. Then we had then we have like the regional tryouts. So like my class for 98s had like me, Lagos Kungo used to play in like MLS. He was playing for Georgia. And then we had a really talented like Florida team ourselves. So then we went to Alabama for like that tryout. And then from there, I was able to make like the national team camp with like my region camp. So that was like the first ever like U14 cycle national team camp with like 80 kids. And like, I'm pretty sure like a bunch of us went pro from that kind of like cycle. So they say that kind of group was like one of the generational groups that kind of came along for U.S. soccer, the 98 age group.
No, most definitely. And then from there, you got to Philadelphia Union Academy. How'd that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my story. So I went to Mont Verde Academy for 1 year. So I played there for a year.
So for folks that don't know,
tell
them about Mont Verde Academy, because I know a couple guys.
Yeah, so Mont Verde Academy is like a private school in Florida. Now it's like a big academy that produces a bunch of pros. A lot of guys that are going to LAFC. Some guys that are playing overseas in Sweden and stuff. So they have a bunch of kids that come from around the world, like Africa, Central America, South American. So like I was playing with a lot of guys who were like Brazilian, who were older than me. So like the original plan was after I went on trial to Arsenal, they were going to keep on monitoring my progress. And they thought like Montverde might be the best option for me because I'd be playing with players who were like older than me, bigger, faster, more experienced. So that was kind of where like the idea came. So then I only stayed at Montverde for 1 year. Then I moved to Toronto FC's academy because I got an invitation from Thomas Rongen, who was the academy director at the time. So they really, really wanted to bring me in. At this point, I was getting called up to both the Canada and the US U15 national team. So I'd like swap back and forth. But eventually, it was a decision to either go to Toronto FC's academy or go to residency for the first ever cycle. And then I chose to go to Toronto at the time. But then for some reason, my international transfer clearance wouldn't go through, even though I'm Canadian. I think it's because I was underage and like my parents didn't move with me to Canada. So then I ended up only staying in Canada for like 6 months, and then I was able to go to residency. So I stayed in residency for 1 semester, and then after that I tore my meniscus. But then Philadelphia Union used to come to like our practices to scout players for their academy, and Mark Prezant, who's like the head scout at Inter Miami now, he scouted me to come to the Philadelphia Union Academy because he was with them.
Who was your coach at residency during your time?
Richie Williams.
Perfect. And then let's not brush over the fact that you wanted to try at Arsenal. Like, talk about that experience.
Right.
How was it when they like saw you? Like, did they reach out to your parents? Did they like get in touch with the coach? How did that come about? And what was that experience like?
So the story's kind of crazy. So like Jamaican families, like we have like these, like at the end of the year, someone in the family will always throw like a kind of like a party and stuff. And like everybody was like kind of word was getting around my family that like, you know what I'm saying, we have this upcoming soccer player in my family who's really gifted. So actually one of my family members, like my uncle, had a connection to a couple clubs in England. So he was in England, he was an agent there for a little bit, but he still had the connections. So he's like, yo, Raheem, like I'm gonna bring you on trial to like Arsenal and Fulham, like do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I flew over to England, to London when I was 14 by myself. Like my parents drove me to Miami. We flew from there. I remember my first day like it was yesterday. Like we took like a taxi to like the training ground, and this is the class. My class had like, I think I was training with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Who else was there? Chuba Akpom was there, who was with the first team for a little bit. And then Gideon Zalalam was there, but he was already training with the first team, so he was already like up there. Also Joe Willock, who plays for Newcastle now, he was there as well. Marcus McGuane was on Barca B for a little bit. So there's some ballers in my age group, and I did really, really well. So I remember my first day, I was playing like a right wing, just taking people on with pace, just playing really well. And then there was a couple other kids on trial that same day who I didn't see the next day, so they must have like got cut. So I was there for a week, and then they moved me to my age group, the 98 age group. So like the first day, what they'll do to evaluate you is like put you in an older age group to see if you can handle like the kind of like the intensity, and like if you're playing in an older age group, then you can play with your own. Exactly. So when I first went over there, I was with the older age for like one day, and then I stayed with my age group for the rest of my time there. And then I did really, really well, but unfortunately, I didn't have a European passport. So like the only way I was able to sign there is if my parents moved to England, and they're like, look, you're 14, like you have a lot to still develop on. So it's like it's better if you wait till 18 and see what happens. But at the same time, it's really, really tough because it's like that's 4 years of development that you're missing in that type of environment compared to the US. And at the time, MLS academies it wasn't structured the way it is now. Like even Amobi could tell you, like sometimes signing a homegrown at the time was like a bad thing because you didn't know if you were even going to get minutes with the first team for the next 4 years. So yeah, all the time. So it was a really tough. I really wanted to stay. I remember telling my parents how bad I wanted to stay and take the opportunity, but I feel like I was really young. So at the same time, I kind of
what advice would you have for a young player, going on trial at that young age? We're seeing it more and more. Young athletes, especially in America, going overseas to try their trade. But to get that chance, what did you do, or what advice would you have? A lot of players playing overseas to kind of set their mark or be noticed.
The first thing I would do, honestly, I remember the first thing I did was that I tried to reach out to Gideon before, like reaching out to a fellow American who's already there, so you kind of have an idea of like the structure, how it works, what it's gonna be like. So I remember when I was first there, like I messaged Gideon. I was like, hey bro, like I'm coming on trial, like what's it like? And he's like, hey bro, like best of luck, just play to your best of your abilities. Don't even focus on the fact that you're Arsenal. Just pretend like, you know what I'm saying, like it's just a regular session, and just be creative and do your thing. Because at the end of the day, you're there for a reason. They see something in you, they see a quality in you, and make sure you show that quality. Because it's like I knew that I had pace and I could beat guys 1v1. So that's exactly what I went in there and did. Like you don't want to change the way that you want to play. So that's like the best advice I could tell a youngster is kind of just see if another American that might play at the club or in the same country, get some advice from them. Before every session, just try to mentally prepare, get integrated in the group. Like let the guys know that you're there. Like let the guys be interested in who you are. Like let them know your personality, because that really helps on the field. Because it's like, all right, this guy's really cool. Like I'll pass him the ball. I'll make sure he does well. Because I've seen a lot of guys go on trial. It's hard for them to get on the ball. Like the players are kind of cold to them, especially in a country where you might not speak the language. So I'd say make sure your personality shows off the field. That's very, very important. And the last thing is when you get on the pitch, just do your thing, be creative, and just remember why you're there and showcase the qualities that you have.
That's great advice. I think a lot of people can heed that, because whether it's going on trial overseas or even with the MLS Academy, this is what makes the difference. So obviously you came back to the States. You're developing in the youth academy system. You mentioned that it was a different time then, being a homegrown or being in the academy. So you decided to go to college. Can you talk about your experience both at UVA and Oregon State?
Yeah, man. So college was a crazy experience. I remember my first year at UVA, I was coming off playing minutes with Bethlehem Steel. So my first year, obviously, how college works kind of is like if guys are older than you, you might be just as good, but like they're gonna play the older guys who are there kind of for like varsity for like 4 years. So like the college route to make it pro obviously is a lot more difficult, especially now. I feel like a lot of youngsters are getting more opportunities to sign a lot earlier. So and actually getting minutes in the league, that was a big thing. So for me, when I was first going into college, it was like, okay, I could sign with Bethlehem Steel, but if it doesn't work out, then I don't have anything. So I'll go to school, see if I could develop in the next year or two, and then try to move on. So my first year at UVA, I was kind of like more of like a super sub. They came me on to making an impact and stuff like that. I had a couple assists. The second year was kind of like the same, like really like the first like 10 games of the season. I don't think I started any. No, I started one game and I scored in it. Didn't play for like the next 4 games. And then I started starting as we got closer to the ACC championship. So we played the ACC championship against Wake Forest when they had like Ima Tumasi, John Baccaro, Brad Dunwell. Like they had some guys who are either playing in MLS or like Scotland or USL champ. Very solid team. We lost in the final, and then we got upset in the tournament that year. So then my third year was coming around. And that's when I decided, actually, I went to Europe for a little bit to play. I actually signed for a team in Switzerland at the time, and that's when I left UVA to sign there. Because at the time, my scholarship wasn't as like good as I wanted it to be, and like at the same time, my dad also got diagnosed with like a form of cancer. So I was kind of thinking, like, you know what I'm saying, like it's time for me to like move up and start to like play in a professional environment to develop and like start to kind of take care of my family at the time. That was my thinking. So that's when I went to Switzerland for like 3 months, but then I couldn't play games there because they said that I wasn't a European citizen, so they didn't tell me at the time when I signed, and I couldn't play any games. So then I went on trial to a couple teams in Denmark. I went to Randers, Hobro, and Viborg. They didn't really work out either, and I came back home in January of January of 2020, and I tried to get my eligibility back because I didn't sign with the agent at the time. So then I reached out to Jeff Cook, who was my academy coach at Philadelphia Union, and he's a coach at Penn State now. And I was like, look, is there any way for me to get my eligibility back? This is the situation. He talked to his compliance officers, and they said, look, it's going to be very difficult, but you could try. So first, what I had to do, I had to get my release from UVA. And at the time, they weren't really feeling it because they're like, yo, this kid signed pro. He signed with the agent, yada, yada, yada. They weren't really trying to have me come back. So then the whole case went to the NCAA. It took like 4 months for me to get a verdict. And then I ended up committing to Oregon State. So they're doing all my stuff because Terry Boss, who's the head coach, was my assistant coach at Virginia. So he brought me to Virginia. So they had like a whole entire like case on me. And then for that season in 2019, it was 2019, I got suspended for half the season. So I could only play 10 games in my junior year. And then the next year I was eligible to play the whole season. So then I played in like the last like 9 games of the season because we didn't make the tournament that year, but I had like a goal and an assist. Like I had an assist against Stanford and a game-winning goal against Cal. And then so then that year ended. Then 2020 came, and then that's when COVID happened. So then I didn't have a senior year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a
crazy
wild
how
story.
NCAA handcuff you too.
Yeah, man. So it's like I didn't have a senior season at Oregon State, and then the 2021 MLS draft was coming up for that year. So like even though there wasn't a season, they were still trying to like draft players that year. So I thought everything was gonna be cool and I was gonna be able to get drafted regardless. Because even my resume was different, like it was a little bit inconsistent, but people could already like tell from my background, like, look, this guy's a good player. Like he was in Europe, like he played on the youth national teams, like he was scoring at Virginia, like you know what I'm saying. Like there might be some tools to work with. Like even if a team took like a flyer on me and picked me in like the second round or something, like at least that would be an opportunity for me to prove myself. Unfortunately, like for some reason, like 3 days before the draft, the agent that I was working with was like, yo, Raheem, like for some reason we're having difficulties putting you on the draft list. And to this day, I still don't know the answer to why they wouldn't put me on the draft list. I have my theories, but like I can't really say. But I wasn't put on the draft list for that year. So it was unfortunate for me to not get drafted. It was really, really disappointing. And then I went on trial to Inter Miami's second team for like a week, but they were kind of focusing on like the youngsters that they were bringing up as well. And then I started to so I played a year of PDL, like just getting ready for any opportunities. And that's actually like around the time when my cousin actually died from suicide. So I kind of took a step away from the game, started focusing on some like other creative ventures. And that's kind of where I got to creating Hyphenate from that, just kind of like using my cousin as motivation to start something different where I'm still working in the soccer space, but I'm not necessarily playing, but I still have an influence in a way. And that's exactly how I wanted it to be. If I wasn't going to play the game, I 100% want to be committed to it off the field.
That's really important, and thank you for sharing because that's something that is very tough to deal with. A great segue as we talk about Hyphenate, but real quick, I just want to ask you straight up: if soccer, like if a team were to call you right now, would you consider playing?
With like it depends on the league, like in the team. Like are we talking MLS?
Do you love the game?
I mean, I love the game, but it depends on the opportunity as well. Like if it's you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, like it has to make sense because I'm at a point now with my company where things are really starting to like go up.
Fact.
So like you're sacrificing some things now. So like if you had asked me this question maybe 6 months earlier, I'd have been like 100%. I'll take anything. But maybe like a year ago, if you asked me around this time, I would have signed anything, man. Seriously, like I was desperate to be a pro. I just wanted one chance, one opportunity, and I didn't really get it at the time. and like I kind of stepped away, started focusing on my family, like had to be there for them. And then I started working on our first event, which was really, really successful because we had like 35 guys from MLS come to our first event, and Hyphenate didn't even exist yet. So it was like I saw the potential and I saw people supporting, and I was like, oh, okay, like we could be onto something with this. And like that's kind of like where we're at now, how much it's built even over like the past 6 months, because Hyphenate just started in January. But honestly, like sometimes I do miss the game, of course. Like I see guys that I played with. It's difficult. Like you see guys who you played with growing up your whole entire life. You're competing with them. Guys literally at the game, when I went to the Chelsea Arsenal game, guys are like, yo, Raheem, like why are you playing right now? Like you were in, like you're good enough. Like you should keep on going. And like you think about it, like, yeah, I wish, but like obviously it depends on the opportunity that's presented to you. So it really have to depend, you know? Like if it was an MLS team tomorrow, 100% I'm going. But like if it's like if a USL team or like MLS Next and like they're not going to really give me an opportunity, or like financially if it doesn't make sense, then it's like it's very difficult. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables to consider at the age of 24 now. Like I'm not like a 19 or 20-year-old anymore, so I'm still young, but it just depends on like what kind of role the club would see.
I feel like everyone has their own path, and obviously your journey is your journey. And condolences to your family for the reason why Hyphenate started. But tell us about what Hyphenate is today.
Of course. So Hyphenate is a creative company where we do like different projects. So we do events, like art shows and fashion shows. We also work with like fashion brands, bringing them to the US to kind of show their clothing as well. We also do art, so we work with artists to kind of like sell their art, and like we take a commission. And we're also starting like up a podcast, and like we have another idea for like a bunch of stuff within like the fashion space, and just kind of like we also do curation for like other fashion projects. So like if a company comes to us and is like, Raheem, like we have this clothing, or like we have this idea, could you kind of help us curate the scene or set up an event for us? So we help with like a lot of like the creative, like behind the scenes stuff for a lot of companies as well. And that's what we're working on right now. So we do like a bunch of different pathways, a lot of creative projects, kind of just like a creative company that just could do everything. And we like to have an emphasis on mental health awareness. So what we do is like whatever events we have, or like whenever we sell clothing and stuff, a portion of proceeds go towards mental health awareness in honor of my cousin. So it's also just like a great way of just continuing his legacy through my own work.
Impact behind your mission, and definitely, obviously, what you went through, what your family went through, and you know, you creating a company that builds that. That's what it's all about. Can you talk about like mental health in sport?
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
that. Did you
that.
deal with any mental health in sport, and any advice that you have, you know, from a mental health perspective, not only for any athlete, but just any individual that may be going through something like your cousin?
I remember like the first time I really started to feel kind of like mental health in regards to sport was my senior year at Philadelphia Union. Like I wasn't getting a lot of minutes, so like at that point it's like when you're an academy player, football's your whole life. Like Amobi could even tell you guys, like when you're at YC Academy, you wake up in the morning, you go train, you go to school for 3 hours, then you train again, and it literally you go home, you do your homework, and the day starts again. You go, on the weekends you have academy games, so like that's your place to kind of show the staff, show the academy director, like, look, you might be ready to be a prospect to be on the first team. So it's a very competitive environment. You're playing with like 18 of some of the best guys in the country. So my team, Mark McKenzie, Matt Real, Austin Trusty, like guys who are going to Europe playing on the national team now. And it was a very competitive environment. So your senior year, and I wasn't playing that much, and I was really down on myself. You're away from your family. You're only 17 years old. And it's nice talking to your mom and dad on the phone, but like when you're not living with them consistently all the time, and like you get really down on yourself, and all the time, like if you make a mistake in practice or you make a mistake in the game, it just kind of sticks with you because you're a youngster. Like it's going to stay with you. You don't really know how to manage things yet. You're not like mentally mature to handle that. So for me, when I wasn't playing a lot that year, I was really, really struggling mentally. I remember telling my mom and dad, like after that Christmas break of that year, I was like, look, I already committed to Virginia. Like I want to play for an academy back home. But then what happened was I ended up going back to Philly. And then my coach, Jeff Cook, actually brought me up to the Bethlehem Steel with a bunch of other youngsters. So like me, Trusty, Joey Desart, we all started playing with like Bethlehem Steel. And that's when I kind of started just training with them consistently and playing games with them. So I was one of the first academy prospects to play in a game for Bethlehem Steel. But it also just shows the ups and downs of a professional athlete. You could go from the lowest point where you don't think that this is going to be it and you're ready to be done, to all of a sudden you're playing at a level that was far beyond that what you could even ever expected a couple months ago. And that's kind of the beauty of the sport, and that's like the difficulties that we face. It's like at one moment you could be here, the next day you're all the way up here. You just got to stay with the ebbs and flows, and I kind of learned to kind of just mentally mature enough to kind of manage those ebbs and flows and my emotions like better, like really just improve myself as a person.
No,
and you
most
learn
definitely.
from experience, and you learn from growth.
That's great advice, for any individual, not only athletes. Like there's going to be ups and downs, but you got to have your support system, and you got to have like that kind of vision ahead. So let's get back into Hyphenate. I think 100%. You kind of took the Instagram by storm these past couple of weeks. You had the stars. You had the stars of the summer at your art and fashion show. So talk about the show. Talk about how it came to life, and some of the things that made it come to life.
Yeah. So kind of like how it began was from last year, I'd say. So last year around September, I actually got the opportunity to just stay with Christian's house in London while he was playing for Chelsea at the time. He had like an injury. So me and my best friend Terrell kind of lived with him for like a month. And through then, I started making a lot of connections with people, just kind of networking with people in the UK, networking with a lot of players. It really, really helped because as we came up to our first event, which happened in December of that year, it kind of gave me more ideas and more connections and more people to work with. So then when Hyphenate started in January, I took another trip to the UK. And then Zach Steffen had like a foundation, and they were having like a collection come out with like Voice Now, his foundation with One Football, which is like a really, really big like football app. They have like, I think like 5.9 million followers on Instagram. So one of my friends is close with Zach, and like I remember talking to Zach a little bit as like when I was really, really young. But he was like, yo, Raheem, come to the show, network, and like meet a lot of people in the UK. So that's when I met with Zach and came up with the idea for his brand to kind of be an art fashion show in Miami. And that's how I made that connection. And then I also got a bunch of like other like upcoming streetwear brands within like the United States. So I used Mark McKenzie, Matthew Hoppy, and Chris Richards, who are all three of them good friends of mine. I love them, man. Like those are like my bros for real. So they kind of helped with the project, bringing brands on board, kind of saying like, look, my friend Raheem's having a fashion show. Look, you guys should like kind of just, give it an opportunity, like let them speak to you guys, and maybe you guys could be there because we'll be there like in attendance. So it's really nice of them to like kind of be a part of my project and invest their time and effort, because obviously they play in Europe, and they play for some of the biggest clubs in the world. So for them to even just take a couple hours out of the day to just recommend brands to me, put me on, like that meant the world to me. So making those connections between like kind of my soccer and like into my business is really like how the beginning of it kind of started, and like that's the connection that I'll always have to the game. So then we started bringing like a lot of brands on board. Then it was just kind of telling the players like, look, so actually we scouted a day. So we knew June 18th was the date after the CONCACAF Nations League that all the players would be off. So I talked to a lot of the players and I was like, yo, like what weekend are you guys going to be off? So it was like the perfect weekend. So like everybody was in town. There was also like a charity game. So like Vinicius Jr., Ronaldinho, everybody was in Miami that weekend. So it was just perfect timing. So then everybody kind of just came for the event or was in Miami within the space. And literally, like when we had our event, we had a bunch of guys from the national team come. Even Chris Richards brought Joshua Xerxes, who also played on Bayern, had a bunch of guys in the NFL. My friend who was in the NBA, Kyle Guy, who now plays overseas in Barcelona now, he sponsored the event. So like we had just had a really big connections to a bunch of different sports, to a bunch of different creatives within like the fashion and art space. And it was just an incredible event, man. Just an incredible experience.
UVA when Kyle Guy was
so grateful that we were able to put it all together.
Okay, that's what makes sense. I was like, how you know? Okay.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, so we were friends. So we're friends after first year. So I'm good for I'm close with him. DeAndre Hunter, who's on the Atlanta Hawks.
That's amazing.
And
Talk about
Ty Jerome,
when it comes to relationships, like the importance of relationships when building a business and networking and different things like that. Because it's easy to be associated with athletes, especially as an athlete yourself. It kind of looks down upon like, oh, that's just his friend, but it's no, like you're actually building relationships. So talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like from a young age, I was always just able to just build these relationships and just consistently grow these friendships. I think when I was younger, it was just more of like out of just like, you know what I'm saying? I was just always an outgoing type of person. Like guys would always come to me. They felt comfortable with me just talking to me all the time. And seeing those relationships develop, like I didn't know Christian was going to end up being who he is, or Weston or Tyler or any of these guys. It was just genuine friendship. And I think that like that's the best way to start it off, is just like doing cool things with like your friends, and just developing genuine friendships and relationships with people, because I feel like we live in a society now where everybody's on social media, everybody's on their phone, and maintaining direct contact, having good conversations and good relationships is something that's very rare nowadays, especially after the pandemic and stuff like that. A lot of people are more reserved, they're more like introverted. So me, like, I don't really care who you are. Like I'll go up to anybody, strike a conversation, bro. Like anybody, like, and especially if it comes to football, it's like at this point I know so many players that like it's easy to have a conversation, and really take it from there. I don't even talk about business opportunities at first. It's kind of more like, oh, like how's this, or like I know a lot about the game, or like a lot of different sports and stuff, so I'll bring up something that they know about and be like, oh, like, you know, this person, and like that's kind of how the conversation starts going. And then if you strike a mutual interest, then, you know, it's like, okay, like maybe we could work on something. So it's like, it's more like having that relationship first, and then who knows, it could lead to something that you guys are both passionate about, that you guys both want to work on. But for me, the most important thing was having, at the beginning, just having that support from my friends to begin with, from like a friendship level, those relationships that I've developed over the years, and just having them support me. It just meant a lot for them to just even come out and just support me like personally. So I'd say for like people who are trying to maintain these relationships and build relationships with people, is try to build genuine friendships without like trying to ask for something or do anything at first. That will always come in the conversation, because you guys, if you're going to talk to someone, it's most likely that you guys have something in common, or something's going to bring you guys together. But let the conversation flow. So I always let the conversation flow, and we always have something to like kind of just level off of, and then we go from there. So that's how I take a lot of my
Perfect. And then,
business,
so what's next for
or like
Hyphenate? What you
friendships
guys
and
got in
relationships, and how I
store?
build them at first.
5 months left in the year. What are some big goals to close the year out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're actually working on a couple things, just like helping a couple, like staying within like the football community, potentially working on some like big projects that are coming up within the soccer space. Also some like lower leagues, like the USL, UPSL, kind of developing them. I mean, like I feel like from a grassroots level, we could do a lot better in like trying to embrace the soccer culture from like local clubs and local communities, and trying to, you know, like influence the culture to like little kids, and kids who are like looking up to these guys at like the local level, because at the end of the day, not
Yeah.
every state or every city has an MLS team or a USL championship team. So these UPSL teams and USL teams who are in places like El Paso, or like places with no like MLS team close to them, they have the duty to kind of develop the soccer culture, and to kind of elevate the kind of pool of players that we could select from. So for me, it's like we're trying to work closely with like some of like the lower leagues, and like from the grassroots level. We're also planning another event. So 100%, y'all need to come out to the next event that we're planning out with.
Y'all gonna do it during
We're trying
Art
to have
Basel
one
or
in
what?
December that we're trying to set up. So yeah, so we have a couple things that we're definitely trying to work on. So we were thinking about doing one during Art Basel, but we're
Okay.
also thinking about doing one in LA. So kind of building that connection to like the West Coast, because we had two in Miami already. So we kind of want to switch up the scene, and kind of just, you know, elevate to like a different side of the country, and kind of just bring kind of everything together. So we're looking at moving things to LA. Also, Miami is an option, but we definitely
Okay.
like to look
Cool.
in
And so,
December,
what's one
Miami
thing
after the
that you
World Cup.
do,
That's what
to
we're
get
planning
more
for.
of us in the sport? Us being, young black men and women in the sport. Like, you talk about culture, you talk about grassroots, which is all great. What's one thing that you think is missing in this game today?
Mm. I feel like I feel like we've developed a lot, actually, in terms of just developing talent to like be in MLS clubs and be in the game early, and kind of have pathways. I feel like we need to do more in like inner city communities. I think Black Star Initiative's doing a lot more with that, and I'm trying to develop Hyphenate to kind of partner and do more things in regards to that. I know that we just started, and obviously like like that, but we want to have. I want to influence like the next guys, like the next young black kids who are trying to like look up, or like Latino. Like soccer is just a worldwide community, and I feel like there's still so many players that we're just missing. I think it just has to do with the fact that the United States is so big. We don't have clubs that cover the whole entire country like England does. So like the culture is always going to be there because everything is just so close together. It's easy to scout a player. You hear about him. Whereas if you find a young black kid from Utah, like how would anybody even know where this kid is going to be at? So I feel like from that level, it's kind of like we want to work with like lower T, like the UPSL or like stuff like that, to kind of influence those kids who play on those teams in like faraway places, that they have a pathway, and just bringing them in and just growing them in up enjoying and loving the game. Like just growing up and just loving the game of football, I feel like it's very, very important. Even when I was growing up, I just loved the game. I just wanted to kick the ball around and just play every single day. And a lot of kids just kind of just need that kick and be like, okay, like I just want to be a professional soccer player one day. Like we need more kids who just want to be like, look, I want to be a pro. Like I want to be a professional soccer player. And I feel like Hyphenate can have that platform to really, really make that happen.
All right, well, let's get into some rapid fire stuff. A couple of fun questions here. All right, so fact about yourself that most people wouldn't know.
All right, sounds good. A fact about myself that most people wouldn't know. Oh man. Sheesh. I feel like my whole life is on the internet. Like so many things. This it's difficult. What fact is yourself?
I know you got something.
I feel like most people don't know that like I'm actually a big basketball fan. So like I don't really just watch soccer. Like I'm a fan of like many other sports, but I'm actually really, really into like just like basketball and like the basketball culture, learning about the players, knowing what's going on. Like I'm a really, really big fan of that. And a lot of people don't know that also like I'm actually like, what's funny is I actually like write down jokes and stuff. Like I actually want to like do like improv, like telling jokes, like stand up comedy. So a lot of people don't know, like sometimes I like write jokes on my phone in my notes and stuff. Cause I'm like, one day I'm just gonna, do like a comedy special just for like fun, like at one of my shows, just kind of tell a couple jokes before like at the ESPYs or something. Okay. So a lot of people don't really know about that. Like I like comedy.
You got a favorite comedian? Okay.
Huh? Yeah, Dave Chappelle, 100%. 100%. I still got like I think I got season 2, season 3 on tape, like on DVD. Right. Like I used to watch it when I was a kid. I don't even know why I was watching it as a kid. I shouldn't have, but it was hilarious.
Fresh off of not officially retired, but you fresh off of being a baller. Also moving into the event art, fashion, music space. What's on your pre-match playlist?
My pre-match playlist, I listen to a lot of Gunna. I'll listen to a lot of like Lil Uzi sometimes. Sometimes I like to throw it back. I'll listen to like a couple like I'll listen to like a couple like R&B like artists from like back in the day. And I like to just kind of switch it up really, but like mostly I'll listen to like Gunna or like Lil Baby or something, get really, really hype up for the game. I also like, like some Playboy Cardi. Like I'm like, that's my gen. Like I like those are some artists that I like. So I like to listen to that before the game.
Hyphenate's doing a lot in the fashion space, art space. What would be your dream collab or client? Yeah, or client.
My dream collaboration or client. I would love to actually, I would love to work with A$AP Rocky, 100%. Because I feel like he has the great mix of like music and fashion and just being multi-hyphenate. Like the name hyphenate means like being involved and like being good at like a variety of different things. And I feel like he's like a multi-hyphenate human being. Like he does fashion and he does music and he's very, very creative. I think if you put me and like A$AP in the same room, we could come up with something crazy. So that's definitely
who's
someone
on your five-a-side team? If you had to create a five-a-side out of all your homies, all your soccer playing homies.
We're not trying to get you in trouble. No, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
But
out of all my homies, so only the people that I know.
The people, yeah. All right, do both. The people you know.
It could be anyone or only the people
your
I know.
all-time five-a-side.
We can do both. Okay. All right. So this is gonna be attacking. So I'll do for the people I know. I'll do Weston, Christian, Alphonso Davies.
However you want to lay it out.
Necessarily, however you want to lay it out.
I need a goalkeeper. Do I? This is.
Yeah, you got 3 right now.
Okay, I'll do. So I have 3. I'd put. I like Tajon Buchanan. I'll put him, and then for some defensive cover, I'd probably do Chris Richards. For sure. And then for that I don't know, I'd put Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo, center back. I would have this defensive cover. Honestly, the player that I really like, really as a center back, is Rudiger. Like when I was in England, like he really impressed me in person. So I like Rudiger, and I also throw in, surprisingly, a player that I really enjoy watching play is Kovacic.
That dude can ball.
I play Kovacic, which is surprising, huh? Yeah, he could ball. Like he's actually one of my favorite central midfielders to watch in person. Like I think he's so smooth. He never loses the ball. Like he's good at what he does, and like I'll just play him in the middle and just have. I love Mbappe. Like that's my favorite player.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely have him.
You talked about different brands. You got a favorite brands? Like if you got like top 3 brands.
Yeah, 100%. I really I like my favorite brand right now is like I really like Bottega. They have some really dope stuff coming out right now. I also like on like the low key like fashion side of things, I actually really like a lot of the brands that we're working with right now. So for example, we work with like Turbo Market, Joshua Muhammad, like Kit Boys. Like I really like the up and coming like streetwear brands. So I really love supporting like those upcoming brands that a lot of people don't know about. Cause like I feel like a lot of people can rock designer. Like you're gonna see every professional athlete, like they'll still wear the Balenciaga, the Louis Vuitton, the whatever. But when you see guys wearing some like underrated drip that not many people know about, like I know like Mark McKenzie and Chris Richards and like Matthew Hoppe, like they'll wear things that like a lot of people don't really know about. And that's why I really liked working with them, because I saw that they really had like fashion sense. They weren't just wearing like the very expensive brands. Like they were tapped in with a lot of like low key streetwear brands that not many people knew about. So I really like kind of brands like that. Or like if a brand's like, yo, Raheem, like we want to send you some stuff, like I'll rock their stuff. Like I've been rocking a lot of the stuff that have been of brands that have been in our fashion show. So I really like being able to like work with them, but also represent them in my own way. But I'd say like from a designer's perspective, I really like Bottega, and I really like Balenciaga stuff. They have some decent stuff as well. Louis Vuitton, when it's not too much. I don't like monogram stuff, so I don't like too many symbols and stuff like that. I like keeping it simple. Cool. But like, I really like also like a lot of just underrated streetwear brands.
Off-season spot. I see you was enjoying Miami a little bit. Miami, LA. Where's your off-season spot?
Oh my days.
Okay.
My off-season spot, 100% Miami. 100% Miami. And an underrated spot that a lot of people don't really know about.
No, you not. Hey, hit my line offline because I'm going to Caravana
this week for like Caravana, which is like
I'm going to Toronto. I'm going on. I got the red eye Wednesday. So
if you going to Caravana?
Yeah. I don't know if you can keep up with me though. I don't know if you can keep up.
All right, so then we gonna link up. So all right, yeah, I gotta like. What you mean? Yo, I got a dinner on Friday at 9, so either you be there or be squared, bro. We can start right from there. So, I love Toronto. So me and Amobi gonna be out there on this weekend, it looks like. That's crazy.
We'll link offline for sure.
That's
Amobi,
crazy.
We need that content.
What?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. We'll link 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100. Nah, we need that content out for sure. I have
okay.
And I have like a little dinner that I'm having with a couple guys on TFC and stuff. So you definitely got to come through. But I think Toronto's dope. I love going to Miami because it's just like everybody goes to the Yams in the off season. Like everybody's there. It's easy for everybody to meet up. So when we were there for our past event, like I remember the Wednesday night, we went out to this spot called Komodo. So it was like me, Haji Wright, Chris Richards, and all the homies. Like we went out, and then all of a sudden, like the whole club, like kind of just starts looking in this one direction. So everybody's like, "Yo, what's going on?" So we look. Kareem Benzema comes in, Vini comes in, Eder Militao comes in, Ronaldinho comes in. So it's like I'm already with. It was me, Alphonso Davies, Tajon, Sam Adikube, mixed with like the US guys. So like I kind of integrated both of the squads together, and like it was pretty hilarious because I remember Sam Adikube put like 2-0 on like the iPhone because like they beat them in qualifiers in Canada. So like they were like kind of doing some banter and stuff in the section and stuff.
Yeah.
But then we went over there and like we met. That's how I met Vini and like all those guys. Like that's how we did the TikTok video together. So it's just kind of like what I'm saying. Like when you're in that environment where you're all the ballers, football's bringing you all together. Like you're gonna chop it up and like we might not speak the same language like as well. Like I try to speak Spanish to Vini and like Militao and stuff, but everything kind of just when it comes to football and just like dancing and like everything that's popular in football, you guys could just kind of get along. So it was really really dope experience, man. How like football just from around the world just brings all of us together. Like even at the highest level, everybody just hangs out together.
I know you got some stories. I got some stories, but we're gonna keep it low key. But for the folks that want to tap in with you, Raheem, it was a pleasure to get your story. Pleasure to see what you're doing. Not only connecting the football culture to fashion, but what you're doing in mental health. How can people tap in with you? How can people support Hyphenate?
100%. So our platform on Instagram and TikTok, it's Hyphenate Creative Co. No spaces, no anything, just Hyphenate Creative Co. on both Instagram and TikTok. Our Twitter is Hyphenate Co. And then you can also follow me on my Instagram, Raheemovich_. So that's kind of like my personal page. And even on my personal page, the Hyphenate name is in my bio as well. So if you want to go from there, that's how you could kind of find the Hyphenate page. And if anybody wants to DM me or message me, I'm always here to answer questions. If there's any brands that want to work with us and stuff, like I'm always trying to make connections, man. So I appreciate you guys so much for having me on the show today and just being able to talk to you guys kind of about my career and what I'm trying to do and just amplify my voice and what I'm doing. It just means a lot. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
no, most definitely.
I appreciate you coming.
I'm going to tap in offline for sure. L, but you take it away.
Yeah, so that's our show for this week. Subscribe, rate, and review helps us get discovered. Follow us on the socials at 2Cents Show, 2Cents FC Show. Then tweet us your comments about the show, any topics you want us to discuss. Until next week. Stop.